Here is Chris Wallace doing what, frankly, I don't know why we're not hearing more about this from the Democrats. You know, when Joe Biden says support the HEROES Act, the idea that they're not talking about the post office now is just stunning to me. Donald Trump has put in a Postmaster General who is destroying the post office from within. I have had two conversations over the weekend. One for my eye doctor, the eye place. They can't get glasses back to me within a couple of weeks because why? They said specifically the post office. Friend of mine trying to do a small business. Package has been sitting at the central processing place for 5 days. She can see it. It's been tracking it. And this is because the post office is specifically now denying postal workers overtime to process and get packages out the door. Why are they doing this? One, they want to debilitate the post office because of mail-in ballots. And two, they want to privatize. They've been doing this. This has been a plan that's been ongoing for 15 years. Here's Chris Wallace, of all people, asking Jason Miller what's going on.
Up. I got to ask you one final question. You talk about the infrastructure, the system not being able to handle it and being overwhelmed. The Postmaster General of the United States, who is a big Republican contributor and a former Trump fundraiser, has just instituted some sizable changes at the U.S. Postal Service. Let's put them up on the screen. Prohibit overtime pay, shut down sorting machines early, require letter carriers to leave mail behind, and the result is that there is a delay in mail being delivered. Question, isn't the Postmaster General increasing the chances that the Postal Service will be overwhelmed, that the very infrastructure that you talk about it being overwhelmed will be overwhelmed coming up to the election?
No, Chris, not at all. And in fact, I think you're confusing a couple of different arguments here. The fact of the matter is that we saw from Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who wanted to have the prepaid postage envelopes for ballots. Well, guess what? Normally, the Post Service doesn't go and
No, wait a minute. Now, Jason, we're talking about the Postmaster General, Mr. DeJoy, and we're talking about cost-cutting reforms that he instituted in July.
Chris,
I'm not mixing up anything. If you want to answer my question, but please don't go into
the Postal Service
please don't go into what Andrew Cuomo is doing. Answer my question.
I am answering your question. The Postal Service has been a disaster for decades. I'm glad that we're getting some financial accountability and trying to get the thing right-sized. But to go and try to put it off on that, it's these state governors trying to change the rules 90 days before an election that's going to lead to millions of Americans being disenfranchised. That's the issue, Chris. You can't go and change it away.
Jason, thank you. Thanks for talking with us.
I mean, Chris Wallace really should have said, Jason, thank you. You're an incredible liar. Appreciate your coming and disseminating that misinformation. The post office has not been a financial disaster for decades. The post office required zero public financing beyond what they made from stamps and their services up until the mid-aughts, when the Republican Party passed legislation that required the post office to pre-fund the retirement benefits for a 75-year period. That means that there are people who were not born, who would not be born for 20 or 30 years, and the post office was responsible for paying for funding their pensions before that. So a huge chunk of their operating budget went into funding that that pension. There is no government agency. There is no quasi-government agency. There is no private business or entity, maybe anywhere in the world, that has that requirement. The post office has been wanting to raise the cost of stamps for a while. The Congress would not let them. The Republican Party has been trying to sabotage the post office for over a decade and a half. And they are they're having the most success they've had right now. And it's a twofer. It's a twofer. They want to prevent mail-in ballots, and they want basically people to go, ugh, I'm not mailing my package through the post office. Won't get there. I guess I got to go to FedEx. Unbelievable. But good for Chris Wallace, at least, for pushing him on that.
Yeah. How do they think people are going to get mail, or do they just not care?
Drones, competition, all that stuff.
Like, I will say, if I I used to not have a buzzer in my apartment. It was horrible. A lot of apartments around where I live don't have them. If I had to go to USPS, if something was sent USPS and I went to the local post office to get it, piece of cake. If something was sent via UPS or FedEx, I had to like go to a part of town that is not even accessible by public transit and wait in line for like an hour. And sometimes I would just give up. Like, I don't need this package that bad.
It is. I don't think people appreciate how disastrous it's going to be.
No, I think people should realize how, the post office has to send you your mail at a certain rate, whereas every other mail carrier has no obligation to do so.
Right.
And they can choose not to.
And they will, they will go to, they are everywhere, the post office.